welcome
to another episode of Driving to the Rest with your favorite hosts,
Larry and we say each other's name ourselves so we don't mess them up.
Inelia.
Yes, perfect. You know exactly how to say it, honey.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Right, before we get started.
Okay.
We're supposed to have our commercial.
Yes.
By our sponsor.
Yes.
Which is who?
It's our listeners.
Our listeners are our sponsors.
Yes, yes. You know, we have quite a number of individuals who have decided to become patrons of the light and sponsor the spreading of the light that we do on the planet.
Indeed.
Yes.
And
expanding our awareness and becoming sovereign.
Some are patrons by dollars.
Yes.
And some are patrons by shareage.
Yes.
Either one's patrons.
Yes.
So we appreciate patrons.
Yes.
And even just listeners. Mm-hmm. You're, listening and patroning the light by your attention, and we appreciate that.
And using the tools and raising your frequency, man. That's really good. But we do prefer that you patron us so that we can eat food and pay for our bills and fixing our house and buying nice things and maybe buying a nice car too. That would be lovely.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine too.
We do not mind that at all. But do not feel like you got to get guilted into paying because,
that you got to get guilt into what?
You ain't getting guilted into nothing. We appreciate
and we prefer it.
And prefer.
Yes.
Cash and diamonds and jewels.
Yes.
We prefer
and new
crystals
cars.
And purses and cars.
Come on, be honest. It's true, right? You want to eat nice food and live in a beautiful home, just like a lot of people. Yeah, and when we have that, we're being supported in our work, right?
Yep.
Because we don't have to spend so many hours just figuring out how to raise money to fix our deck, But we can spend them doing this stuff.
Right, researching articles, writing articles.
Doing our podcast.
Doing the
second hour of our podcast. Writing essays, writing books, making pictures. And Larry doing his photographs. With the crystals.
Crystal pictures.
Yes, you can sponsor us that way too. Buy one of Larry's beautiful signed crystal pictures on glass, is it?
I don't know. We haven't made one. I like that idea though. Didn't you see a link to a place that you can do that?
Sent this one,
get your pictures made on some kind of glass or something. Yeah, that looks pretty cool.
You can sponsor us that way too.
Right. Yeah. All things. Anyway, this commercial's over.
Okay.
We had a good commercial.
We did. Yes.
Actually,
send us your money.
No, we forgot the most important part of the commercial.
What?
Where do you go if you want to be a patron of light in the money department? In the money department, there's a Substack that has your articles.
Yes.
And the articles are free.
Yes. You go inelia.substack.com.
Or you can support.
Yeah.
You just click on the little thing, it's a few bucks, and put in whatever number you feel like, or go with the numbers that are suggested. Mm-hmm. All of it's up to you, and we appreciate that 100,000 million %.
Absolutely, yes. Nice big essays for lecturians.
We get big essays for lecturians and newsletter articles like the one we're going to read here in a minute.
Yes, as well, that too.
And then there's Substack.
Yes.
Which is where you get to hear Ilia and Adelina go into detail with their experience reading this article.
Yes, subscribe.
And their literal journey of what is happening in it, and maybe their questions, and
absolutely magnificent
a lot of in-depth
second part to this podcast.
Right.
Yes.
And at Subscribestar, you can also attend or get a subscription, a patronage to a class.
Yes.
Every month we'll have a class.
Oh yeah, that's right. We have a second tier there that allows you to participate in a class that we do every month.
It's a live class specific for those with a live question and answer. Mm-hmm. And those classes are usually when they come, I'm like, this is interesting. And then we go and do them. Mm-hmm. And I go, I had no idea
how interesting this topic
How interesting this could get. Right?
Yes.
Because like everyone else, we got to make up a title. Here's the name of it. But your names are
Full of energy.
Trying to distill into a little name what it is that's in there, and it's so
much. Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of those. Then, you know, if you do turn into a patron of the light who's subscribed to the classes, you get all the previous classes.
You do. Yeah.
So that's a pretty good deal.
Tons of them. Peebee's.
Peebee's excited about that.
Yeah, she likes that idea a lot.
Or she saw a butterfly.
Possible.
It's one of the two.
Yes.
Okay. Now we did the commercial.
Okay.
Thank you for listening this long. Into the meat. Right away.
Virtual versus reality world. Peebee, come here.
Come back to work.
Thank you. Come back to work. Come on. Get over here. We're working. Come on, Peebee. So, Larry and I spend a lot of time on the internet.
Shocker.
We're officially professional podcasters. In other words, we earn a living from our podcasts and online classes because you sponsor their creation through Subscribestar.
Yeah.
Okay? To keep our fingers on the pulse of what is going on in the world and through personal curiosity, Larry spends time on many social platforms. Places we know are run by AI, which is programmed to disseminate and propagate darkness in the light-dark paradigm.
Well, when you put it that way, it makes me a little bit fidgety.
Fidgety and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In other words, a good portion of Larry's research outside of our internet community of students and podcast audience is deeply embedded in the dark side of the light-dark paradigm.
Occasionally it looks dark, but mostly it looks like interesting.
Yes.
That would be the word we'll use.
Yes. It's called clickbait. It's called clickbait.
Oh, it's on purpose?
Yes.
Buggers.
For most of us, our social interactions on the internet include family, friends, employment, hobbies, interests, alternative media, etc.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And apart from all those, there are also dozens of clickbait items to take our attention. Many people who know and care about, are deeply embedded in victim, aggressor, and helpless dynamics, and they post heavily on those dynamics. By default, most of the items... Yes?
I did notice that those type of posts seem to get a lot more traction, too.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. I've noticed that, too.
It's almost like the AI is...
pushing those.
Pushing them.
Yeah.
Those ones are the ones that get attention. Yeah. Okay, I get it.
So, for example... One post from a friend could say a picture of the beach and say, I have the most wonderful morning. I saw the sunrise on the beach. Mm-hmm. And I'll get maybe 10, 20 likes, The next one is I just found out I have cancer and that I only have 4 months to live.
Yeah, 1,000.
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah, 10,000.
A ton.
Yeah. And it's whoa, what is that about? And then because we are us, we post the cancer cure page, which
what work for us that we used and it worked. So, hey, this is what happened and we did that. And here,
my cancer story, mycancerstory.rocks.
Yeah.
It's like crickets. There's no comments about it. Nobody looks at it. Not even the poster.
Not 10,000 likes by any stretch.
Nothing. No. On their post that has 10,000 views and likes.
It's crickets on there.
Crickets. Nobody
I often
even looks
wondered
at
about
it.
that. Very, very, very rarely in the comment thread does anybody respond to somebody else's comment unless it's a fight.
If it's a fight, yeah.
Then occasionally it'll go that's the whole reason you go to there is for that comment thread fight. Right?
Yeah.
Woo-hoo, fight, just like high school.
Fight.
My God, it's ridiculous sometimes.
It is, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, by default, most of the items they post are clickbait images, videos, discussions, and pages that stimulate fear, righteousness, despondency, frustration, and stress. Narrative boosters for the light-dark paradigm. See our last woofer thought to read more about the narratives.
Yes.
There's a narrative question. Yes. We've been discussing the narratives dynamic on the planet on Walk With Me Now, which is our platform for students and people who are trying out the Iban's methodology and using it in their own lives. And also in a couple of our articles, we talked about narratives. We discussed it on the Woofer Thought in a very deep and long, involved way. And we also talked about it in a couple of our articles around ET narratives and Stuff like that too.
Yep.
So narratives are really important, and understanding narrative is the telling of a story. Whether that story is true or false, right? That's a narrative, the telling of it. And understand, when we see it and understand it, we can become extremely liberated in our manifestation of reality on the planet. So, anyways, by default, most of the social media propagates and pushes narratives that feed the power over others paradigm. Yeah.
Yeah, I would suggest checking that Woo for Thought. You go to Substack, Inelia Benz, and there you'll find this newsletter, and you'll also find a little link that says Woo for Thought. Push that, and you'll find the essays, which are a longer form.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. We click into them knowing about the split, because we do. We know about the split. We and you, know about the split. Right? So when we click these, we're thinking about split when we click in it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, how's the split going on that side?
Knowing about our higher self choices and understanding about the split and what this means to our lives and society at large. So one would think that they would not be and would not have a negative effect on us.
Well, not one that's unknown or unnoticed. It's like, ooh, I looked at that, I don't like it. That's negative. I'm going to, repair my frequency.
Yeah, but it's like...
But it's a little bit more subtle than that.
Yeah.
You think you're still high frequencies,
yeah,
but you're not. You're not.
You're not. The major thing I've noticed is a massive disconnect between real life and that.
Yeah, complete disconnect. It's like... Shut the windows and the blinds and don't even look out there because it's terrible. Just look in here and you'll get your terrible repeated. Almost a little bit.
Yeah. However, we often go in to check on our friends and relatives or the news for a few minutes and end up clicking those clickbait images and interactions ourselves. We then find ourselves stuck to a screen for several hours surfing through negative energies.
It's only a minute or two, honey.
And this is the very interesting bit.
Okay.
When we come out of the screen and arrive at our real life experience of the world, walk around the house, go outside, talk to our pets or people we live with, there is a lingering stickiness to our energy field, a leftover of the light-dark internet.
Yeah, it is true.
As we're awake, aware, and able to consciously understand what happened and are able to dislodge from those energies, the vibrancy, light, and physical co-creation of our experience starts to take hold, leaving everything else behind.
Right, but there's a period in there.
There is, yeah.
That's a varying length.
It can vary.
Immediately right after, I notice, I can be short-tempered, I can be frustrated, I can be angry or upset, or I can be distracted or disconnected. Yeah. And then maybe the dogs, instead of like, I'm so happy to see them, they're like clawing at something or they're ripping something and like pick up on my frequency and they're like also frustrated or excited. And so,
Yeah. I also noticed the big disconnect from the perspective of, like when we're having a conversation and you don't, or I make a request and you don't hear what I actually said, but kind of summarize it into also automation. So for example, if I would say, hey Larry, can you check to see if I threw my nice pen in the bin by accident? I will come down and find you emptying the trash. And I say, did you find the pen? He says, what pen? You asked me to throw the trash out because you heard bin, trash,
Yeah,
Larry.
My autopilot
Larry, bin,
trash. That must mean I got to take it out.
Yeah. So it's like little disconnects like that,
Yeah, that's a good example.
And the other things I've noticed is that when you first get up, like plates will go flying onto the floor, or you will walk right into a chair or a box or a sofa, like even the door ones, you like were looking and and then you step back and open the door. So it was a glass door, but still, I noticed those kind of not quite connected moments. And sometimes there was one incident when you came home from having these interactions. I don't know if they were like through listening to podcasts and things on your way home, or was it from interacting with a lot of people who are deeply embedded in that paradigm that day because of work. But when I went to say hi to you, there was a kind of weird look in your eyes, almost like I was going to smack you or something. And I'm like, hello. Kiss, 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 hug, hug, hug. And you were like, oh, okay. Kiss, 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 hug, hug, hug. And then you kind of cocked your head a little bit to the side and looked at me again and walked off. I was like, oh,
that's unusual.
That's unusual. What happened? And I said, did everything go okay? And you said, I don't know. But I need a shower and my vitamins. So, yeah, it does affect, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so when we start coming back from the internet, right?
As we are awake.
Yeah, we're awake and aware. Repeat. We're awake and aware and able to consciously understand what happened and are able to dislodge from those energies. The vibrancy, light, and physical co-creation of our experience starts to take hold again, leaving everything else behind. And that's a sweet moment, and it feels good, doesn't it?
Because we have picked the light.
We have picked the light, and we are light by default, right? Mm-hmm. So we still see and notice that the dogs need exercise and feeding, plus lots of cattle and pets. The chickens need food and water and talking to. The cats need hugs and food and nice keyboards to lay on, which means we can't type anymore.
Or look at that screen, because there's cat. It's all cat.
It's all cat in front of the screen.
No typing, no looking.
Right.
Just cat.
Just cat. Our homes need dusting and tidying. Our own bodies need walks, air, light, food, cleansing, and physical interactions with those around us. We also need to get on with our work, our jobs, hobbies, and the like. So we choose. We are choosing. Isn't that interesting? It's all a choice, isn't it?
Yes.
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 Yes. There's something called the dark internet. And it is indeed very dark.
I haven't seen it.
No, we don't go there.
No.
However, what we call the regular internet is by no means light.
There's some light there.
There is some. But
Because
it doesn't
we're
need
here.
to have light in it, like us in it.
Okay.
This fact is used to attract light beings into spirals of darkness.
No, wait.
What?
We're not attracting light beings to spirals of darkness. Excuse me?
No, but we can be attracted into spirals of darkness because we're on the internet and have to cohabit with other people.
Okay.
Right? But good clarifications, yes. But it only works if the person is not aware and awake at the time.
Okay.
In other words, because we know what is going on, we can involve ourselves only in the light on the internet, or we can fall for those clickbait and go into low-frequency engagements for hours on end.
Or minutes. Just minutes.
They feel like minutes, don't they? Yeah, but they're not.
Except for the clock isn't. The clock's a liar when you do that.
Yes. You think it's a minute, but it's been like 2 hours earlier that you sat there. Yeah. This morning, for example...
This morning was an interesting example.
This morning was an interesting example. Right. I woke up to the voice of a man who completely repulses me. He's a public figure and a worker trap. Says all the right things, but his energy is evil. I won't say his name because there's no point, and I'm not here to engage with him or his energy or defeat or feed him in any way or form. However, for me it was a rude awakening. It was loud, his voice bouncing off the walls at home. I asked Larry why he was listening to him. Larry said a few things about the nature of the conversation and his qualities as bait. The voice continued for a few moments more, then the volume went down and eventually off. Larry, then remembering our previous conversation about this man, was considerate of the effects his voice had on me and shut it off. The energy I was left with was curiosity itself. I wondered how it was that after I had told Larry that even the man's voice repulsed me, he decided to blast it out in high volume first thing in the morning. His impression was that it was very low and not intrusive. The sound, right?
Yeah.
It was a choice, you see.
Yeah, I've been, working on boats for decades, and my hearing is excellent.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time with words sometimes unless it's just loud enough that you can barely hear them. And so I turn it up to just loud enough to barely hear. Which apparently to some people with very
some people
cat-like hearing
that I live with,
it's super loud.
It was a choice, you see. When we bring into our real life, from the internet, the outside of the internet.
The outside
life.
When you bring into your real life, the life of the internet.
Yes.
Internet real.
That's it.
Internet real. Interreal.
Yeah, it's something we choose. Okay. No one needs to force us or bully us into blast low frequencies around our home.
Or turn them on very low volume.
But sometimes we do it. Of course, in Larry's case, this doing happened because of a clear disconnect between his physical body and environment. He thought it was not loud, and after hours that felt like a few minutes of surfing the low frequency waves on the internet, for him it wasn't loud. It is almost like sleepwalking right into the low frequency feeding frenzy. Real life was a perfection and high frequency and everything and anyone could wish for. Yet the low frequency managed to slip its head in the door anyways.
Yes.
So that part of that is disconnect, right? It's like you think it's not loud, but it's actually really loud. You think it's okay, but it's actually not okay. And it's like, it's that
Well, I knew when I was playing that fella that I knew that you didn't like to hear his voice, so I intentionally put it as quiet as I could to still hear it and see what was going on, because there's a big haboo about it in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like, what's this big haboo about? Yeah. Oh, I see what this is.
Yeah. So there's a disconnect between real life and...
It's a haboo about something that actually is not a haboo about anything in my house. There's literally none of that haboo in this house. No. Well, there was now. Yeah. There wasn't. Yeah. You see?
Yeah.
It's like, that's not a real haboo.
Right.
It's a made-up haboo.
It's a made-up thing, yeah.
But hey, part of the research is knowing what's a made-up haboo, because a lot of people have this haboo in their life. that is not even a haboo. It's a nothing. It's a zero zop. Anyways.
Once the awareness of what was happening entered his mind, the energy of the internet discord changed. Yeah. He then brought more delicious coffee, breakfast, and good conversation.
Speaking of your delicious coffee.
Yes.
Remember the story about the coffee?
No.
We were getting on a plane going to Europe for our first trip, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we stopped in one of these coffee places.
Yes.
And it was at that time we were like, what kind of sugar is okay? Oh my God, this makes me sick. And there was a whole bunch of things. And so we managed to try something called a maple coffee. I never heard of such a thing.
Neither had I.
And the first sip was like ambrosia.
Yeah. It's like, OMG.
I just found.
I can never have coffee in any other way.
Yes. So
Larry had to source organic.
We got organic maple syrup. We have nice organic coffee. We get a rainforest blend from San Francisco somewhere. And
nice filter structured water.
And a mix like half and half coffee. And like a glug of maple syrup. And sometimes sweeter, sometimes lesser, but that's your go-to in the morning. So it's not real strong.
Right.
But it is delicious. Yeah. Right. And I like the little star of toasted yummy this morning.
Yes.
Did you see it was a star?
Stars, yeah. And you cut off the
crust.
The crust for me, because I don't like it in the crust.
Yeah, but the birds, the chickens love it.
They do, yes.
Sometimes the dogs. Everybody likes it, except for you.
Me.
Anyway.
So that was a very different energy.
That was our actual frequency of the morning. That was
actually, that's the norm for the mornings. Larry brings delicious coffee and breakfast. And,
but somehow that hullabaloo managed to squeak his head in here.
Yeah.
That's so really crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, it was.
Anyway.
Having a healthy curiosity and checking on what's being reported about the world is street smart.
It is.
It is. And a great part of our look at 2023 video, for example, was indeed about educating ourselves of the plans the other side had for this year, so that the happenings on the planet would not take us by surprise or suck us into them.
Right. It's like if you mention to someone, hey, do you know about hullabaloo? And they say, What? You don't get the impression like, oh, well, that's because you're in perfect world. You get the impression like,
what?
You go like this.
Shaky?
You go,
shaky?
Yeah, you go like, how could you not know? The aliens have landed, and you wouldn't even know. That kind of thing. Anyway.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Depending on your role, like what we call them, the pandemic mavericks.
Yes.
They have a role, right? They know things about these things, and they say these things about these things. And it's another article. If you haven't seen it, I would highly suggest you go check it out.
Yes.
Anyway, carry on, please.
Yes, so at the writing of this essay, Larry was then out in the sun and fresh air. Before he left, he asked me to write something about that weird period between having spent several hours on the internet and then stepping into the real world. How odd it was.
Yeah.
My response is that the weird period is dictated by what you were feeding while you were surfing the internet. If you spent time feeding your own high-frequency life choices, you come out energized, compatible with your real life, and ready to get on with it.
Almost like bouncing around with enthusiasm and joy.
Exactly.
It's like bounce up the stairs. You'll never nervous. It's the most cutest little baby that the guys do. Oh, you saw that one, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That one didn't get any airtime in this article. I'm just saying.
No, just saying. You came out smiling and filled with inspiration, looking forward to completing your plans for the day.
Yes.
If, however, you chose to be clickbaited into poo,
power over
others, you will feel somewhat discombobulated. You will feel out of sync.
Out of sorts.
Out of sorts. You will require a time of adaptation. Why? Because you are by default a high-frequency being, and you are by default creating a high-frequency physical experience.
So you almost have to like
detune
from that a tuning attempt.
Yes.
And it takes, depending on how long you've been in there, you got to you have like this smell.
Yeah.
Right? We have a high frequency smell, something that's high frequency smell. You have a high frequency sound.
He's talking about essential oils here.
Yeah, you can sniff some high frequency oils, reset. You can hold your crystal, that's a high tuned frequency, high crystal. You tune into that. You can drink some nice structured water.
Yes.
And consciously use the water, cleanse and clear all the way down through. I mean, there's lots of ways that you can discombobulate. Or you could just be discombobulated for a half an hour or so, and eventually it'll probably wash off, right?
So Larry kind of went through our mile-long driveway, like the access road, up and down it, in the heat, because it's really hot right now.
Which I kind of like.
Yes, you do like it. And cutting the blackberry bushes that have, and trees have come in to stop cars from getting into the road.
Yeah, they grow like 3 feet in a day.
Yeah, which is a lot, because
it's not that we don't like blackberries, but you guys got to stay out of the road.
Yeah. So you say slam dunk.
Yes.
Yes. All right, so we'll of course be discussing this topic at length on our podcast, which we are the second hour of the podcast, Driving to the Rest, and that second hour is available to those who sponsor our work by contributing to it on Subscribestar.
Yeah, and I'm sure Inelia is actually on the internet longer than me.
Yes.
And so it'll be interesting to see what his experience is when he, I guess, deconnects from internet world into real world.
Yeah.
And if he has that same kind of an experience, and maybe Adelina as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And maybe even a little bit about having kids into it, right? Because they have a toddler.
Yes, yeah.
And how much internet time does he get?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, huh?
Some toddlers get a lot, and some
toddlers get a lot. And some don't even know what it is yet.
No, they don't. Yeah.
They'll make up for that later, trust me.
Probably.
Oh, well. Yes, let's see on the second hour, which can be an hour sometimes too.
Yep.
And great hearing from us.
Yes.
It was great hearing from us.
Yes, it was.
I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
Thank you, honey.
Thank you, darling.